Hello, thanks for joining us again today. Well, today it is Tuesday. It's June the 23rd. And here we are. We're moving right along. In fact, 1 week from today, the month of June will end, and also one half of the year will be accomplished. And what a year it's been. No need to remind us of the events we go through, unusual events. And so it is what it is. But, without God, where would we be? Often have conversations with people that are in pretty desperate situations, and we say, man, what would people do without the Lord? And so I don't know what that's like, because as a child I've known the Lord, and I've tried to help people, and there's been people in situations where they didn't know the Lord, and to be honest with you, that wasn't handled very well. And then there's people who knew the Lord and they got through it, and it wasn't easy, but with the Lord, He'll help us. So today we're going to be part number 2 of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Of course, it's very familiar to most people who's been in church any length of time. It's the chapter on charity. Yesterday we covered verses 1 through 3, so we're really not going to do any review of that. We're going to look at verses 4 and 5, where we think we need to connect to what we've already said. We'll do that, but basically we're going to try to just limit it to the verses that we read each day. So 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 and 5. Right before we read that, let me say again, thank you so much for watching our videos. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for basically the confidence that you have to watch these and to get something from them. And so we are humbled by that, and we thank you for that. So let's begin here in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and we're going to begin in verse number 4. It says, "Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, and thinketh no evil." And right off the bat, when you look at that description there, number one, you're talking about charity is it's stable. It's not all over the place. It doesn't have a knee-jerk reaction, so to speak, as we would say it. It's calm under pressure, and it's enduring. So we're going to kind of go through these things. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory, but the connection that I do want to make with what we said yesterday is basically just the connection with the subject of the whole entire chapter here. It's about charity. Now, charity is a divine element. That's the most important thing here. In fact, I think it's really the biggest point of the whole chapter is that a person without charity. Yesterday, of course, it was about extremes in being able to be impressive or to be benevolent to mankind, being the best you could be. But without charity, without God, without that divine element, then it really is nothing. And so as we look at verses 4 and 5 here, it's kind of almost the opposite. It's putting yourself in a situation where you're the one having to endure things. You're putting up with things. You're around people who can be hostile, or people that can be extreme in their unbelief and their reaction to you. Certainly, a lot of that's going on today, wouldn't you say? And wouldn't you say there are people that have handled it well, and then there's people who haven't handled it well. And I think it's a lesson here, because it's interesting that the church that this chapter is contained in, the very church that where this was said was the Corinthian church, and they seemingly had the most issues with not being spirit-filled Christians, not being mature Christians, letting the flesh dominate, or not letting the Spirit have its dominance in your life. And it's basically saying, look, if you don't have charity, number one, if you didn't have the Lord, of course, you wouldn't be saved. But charity, this manifestation of the Spirit of God in situations where, one, if you're trying to be the best toward mankind, well, without charity, you're not going to be the best. It's not. Charity is superior. And then, of course, when you're in situations where you're going to need to be calm, and where you're going to need to show the love of Christ, where you're going to need to show Christianity, as we say, boy, it really manifests itself, or does it manifest itself, when you're in situations of pressure, especially around other people. Relationships is a very, very big deal. So charity suffereth long. It puts up with things. It's kind. Don't we need to see a revival of kindness? Now, kindness is not weakness. In fact, it's the exact opposite. I think there's more people who need to show kindness, meaning that they need to show God in their life, especially this social media. People get on, they're preachers, they're children of God, that you know them, and you see comments that are made, and all these things back and forth, back and forth. Look, doesn't seem like it's charity being revealed there. It's easy for the flesh to show itself, and it's also easy for us to say, well, in this situation, here's where my uh, vindictive nature needs to be made known. Perhaps, but the truth is, charities is means you're under control. When you have God in your life, it means you're under control. So, charity envieth not, charity vaunteth not itself. In other words, it's uh, pride is not a part of charity. It's not puffed up. Doth not behave itself unseemly. That kind of goes along with people who get really rattled and get out of order. We're talking about Christians. Now, for the world, they don't have charity. They don't have the love of God. They're not a child of God. They don't have the Spirit of God. So when you seemingly are surprised by the world, and you try to go, quote, toe to toe with the world, realize they don't have what you have. And the remedy is not for you to try to beat them into submission, so to speak. Again, taking you stand is taking you stand. But I see people trying to explain spiritual matters to people who are not spiritual. They don't understand that, and it's basically it's a waste of time. What people need is they need the Lord, of course. They need charity, and they'll get that through the new birth. But again, it's interesting here, especially in the days that we live. Seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. So charity's not selfish. All of us have our human nature. I mean, when you're saved, you still got the old nature, but we have a superior nature in God. Charity is that which needs to be manifested through our lives, especially as verses 4 and 5, especially in situations where the world is going to show its colors, but we as Christians need to show our colors. We need to show, look, we can stand our ground. We can hold our own. It's not about compromise, being kind. It's not about talks about being easily provoked. Be careful. I mean, you see these things on Facebook, and in many cases, it's an unsaved person going off about the things that they don't have the answer to what we call the political problems and the problems of this world. God has the answers, and charity is that outward manifestation of God in our life, and it's love, and we can love those who don't love us. We can love those who don't love the truth. We can love those who don't love a country that God has given us. There's all sorts of ways, and sometimes the greatest manifestation of power is the ability to restrain. I'll close with this. You've heard the old illustration. If you've ever looked at a dam where water is held back by a dam, especially a large dam, and you look at that and you see where they let the water over at times, and you look and see that powerful water flowing over, and you look at that and say, man, there's a lot of power there. But what you need to look at is you need to look at all the water that's being held back, and the majority of the water is being held back by that great wall, and there's great power. I mean, there's power in both, but if you really want to see great power these days that we live, then is not easily provoked. Thinketh no evil. We're not going to answer the evil of this world with evil. There's just no way that's going to happen. Not even proper, not right. But the world needs to see the display of God, charity in our life, and that's not weakness. That's strength. And we're seeing a lot of weakness by the things that people say and all of that. So I think you understand that. So we've covered verses 4 and 5. Tomorrow we'll continue on into 1 Corinthians chapter 13. So we hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you're safe. Hope that you stay healthy. And until tomorrow, have a wonderful day.